Hariom, hello. My name is Fernando Diaz. Here we are at NOR, having one of these beautiful classes that we are proposing for you to be home and be as calm as possible these days. So let's keep it up. We are doing a great job as a community, so we have to think as a community. We know we all want to go out, but probably it's time for us to come inside of us, to come inside of ourselves, to listen to ourselves. Um, let's take this chance as a possibility to do some more introspection, to bring some more inner awareness of what is happening outside, what is happening in the world, what is happening in the whole planet, what is happening in our society, what is happening in our houses, what is happening in our family. So probably for a lot of people is kind of more this huge conflict of staying with the family, but maybe now we need to go back and listen to people we have around. Um, but it's important that we listen to ourselves and that we start breathing conscious of how much air are we putting inside, how much how many thoughts are we having per minute, how many uh, pains or body feelings are we having every time we move or we lie down or we sit or we walk. So let's have a very simple class, and we're gonna divide it. I'm just thinking that we can divide it into a work for legs. Okay, so we're gonna do a 30 minutes class for the legs, for the lower limbs. We're gonna work a lot on the calves and soleus. We work a little bit on the flexibility and the capacity. Some people has the capacity or has the chance to be sit here and it's kind of easy and comfortable for them. But for some people, it's not even possible to not stretch those toe flexors. And some of the people, it's very uncomfortable for them to stay in this position. So we're going to work a little bit on that. Then let's see about all the flexibility of the soleus and the calves coming from the Achilles tendon. And then let's work on the hamstrings and all these poses that for a lot of people is very challenging, and how to keep these postures. Is it better to be flexing your knees and then curving your back a little bit? Is it better to have the low back flat and then the knees a little bit flexed? Is it better just to push? Is it better just to be? So let's find out a little bit how we can work on this specific asana and this specific areas where we have lots of stiffness when we're practicing yoga, to be able to create other asanas and create new sequences, and also have the feeling that we are getting better and better into ourselves, into our poses. Um, so we're gonna start. As you know, I'm not a big fan of mats, and I like to feel the ground without a mat. So but you can always place a blanket underneath your back or bolster or whatever it feels more comfortable. We work a little bit on the quads, we work a little bit on the inner thighs, and we work a little bit on the hamstrings and biceps femoris and a little bit of the hip rotators. Is to get a little resume of how can I work my lower limbs today, and how can I work on my upper limbs the next day, and how can I work on my core the next day, my core, my low back, and all these things. No? So let's just start with a very quiet and simple position and breath. Is giving yourself the moment to stop, giving yourself the moment to be quiet and to be a part of anything else. And I've been reading lots of things that people needs to get their minds busy for these days, to be occupied, feel occupied, not get stressed. I'm gonna propose you to have your minds not busy, to learn how to stop the mind And not stop the mind like completely. That's not easy. That's probably almost impossible. But just try. Just let's not try, but let's keep your minds as calm and peaceful as possible. And the only way we can really reach or approach this goal is through your breath. So every time you have your mind wandering, every time you have your mind pushing you forward, every time you're not here in this place, in this moment, on your mat, on your room, on your house, use your breath. Go to your breath. Focus on your breath. And if you feel like you're going too fast, slow it down, because we can't control the breath unless we really focus on it. It's like if I'm talking and I get nervous talking to you, I focus on my breath, so everything seems to be more gentle, more still, more calm, more peaceful. And it's all in your breath. So that's important that you do that before the yoga classes start. So I'm gonna shut up a little bit because as you know, I love to talk. But make sure you get a comfortable position for your legs, ankles and toes and the sole of the feet, the knees, the leg. See where you put your leg in front, on top, whatever you feel comfortable, especially for your knees. Also for your hips and your inner thighs, like for the people that is normally short, it's very hard for them to be here in a comfortable position. So every time you lift up your pelvis, every time you lift up your hips, you will be more comfortable on the low back, you will be more comfortable on the core. So as I always say, lift up your body, let the legs go down, the hips will easily open better, and your low back will be more calm. Your psoas won't be constantly working, pulling from your position there. You're not gonna have your core engaged. You're gonna relax your core. There shouldn't be any tension on your core. There shouldn't be any tension on your low back. There's only a little bit of tone to hold your posture there. Okay? Your hands resting on top of your knees with the palms facing up. Feeling the sit bones on the mat, the legs, with the hips opening and the feet on the ground. Relaxing your shoulders, having the feeling of the chest opening, not just physically, but also emotionally. Allowing the breath to come in through your nose, through your throat, and have that feeling of expansion of your chest. I insist. Not just physically, but emotionally. And listen to yourself doing no sound, just being completely silent on your breath. This is a good way to focus and calm down. So bringing your palms together in front of your chest in Anjali Mudra, dropping the chin down, always breathing calm, always being aware of your body and your breath and your mind. Let's take a deep inhale, for a gentle exhale, for release. As I always say, I love your own sound, your own healing sound, the one that you produce when you feel good, when you want to release something, when you want to express something, sing, when you want to tell something to someone, a friend, to your therapist, to your family, to your brother, to your mother. Express, put sounds outside of your body, produce sounds. It's always a healing sound. Don't keep it in. One of the main reasons why people get stressed mentally and they get also depressed is because we shut up and we don't want to make some sounds. and we just go deep into our minds to make the sound you feel like making, to be free and express yourself and connect with yourself, with your own vibration, with your own feelings. And with the hands in front of your chest, taking a deep inhale, a little Om to start the practice. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Just drop your shoulders down, open the chest a little bit. Our intention on the class today is going to be working on our legs, working on our lower limbs. So that's the focus of the class today, to have a safe knee and have a safe hamstring and safe low back on this practice. So very gently, we're going to start with a very simple cat-cow pose, and putting the blanket away, cat-cow pose. But the most important thing here is that we keep the toes down on the mat. Okay, we're gonna keep the toes down on the mat. So from now you have the weight of your body on your hands and on your wrists. Push down with the fingers. Remember to use the fingers so you don't rely all the way on your wrist. And from here, you're gonna start dropping the weight of the body on your toes. Some people is not able to do this. Some people really, they just stay here because their toes are not flexible enough. So gradually, let the weight of your body go back to your heels. And if you get tired or if it gets too much pain, you just remove your sit bones from the heels, and whenever you feel like going back again, you drop the weight of the body again, pushing down with the weight of your pelvis and your body towards the heels, down towards the toes. So you're stretching your fascia plantaris and you're stretching your toes. And this is the beginning of the whole fascia, of the whole posterior chain, that is gonna allow you to stretch all the way up, probably farther up towards your low back and your lat, reaching up to your humerus, to your arm. So the connection between the toes and the upper body is very, very important. So you're gonna start from down there. So you just sit back and down, gently back and forward. From here, you're gonna remove your hands a little bit, and you're gonna push down and come into a very gentle and simple downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Relaxing your fingers down, using the fingers, removing sometimes the wrists away from the mat or from the floor. Keeping the elbows gently flexed, the shoulders relaxed, shoulders away from the ears, shoulder blades away from each other. The torso coming in between your arms, and the low back is free to tilt back and forward the pelvis. The belly is also free. There's no action on your belly. It's completely relaxed. So the more you relax your belly, the more you relax your low back as well. Okay, everything is on your serratus and your arm and your triceps, supporting the position there for your body. Then when you keep going down and the heels want to reach the mat, stretching a little bit more on your fascia plantaris, but also stretching in the Achilles tendon, and also stretching on this tendon that is coming from your heel, going up towards the soleus. Good. And maybe just dropping the weight of the body to one leg, then to the other leg. Maybe both feet on the mat, maybe both knees extending and bringing the heels down. Now you're stretching the calves. Think like when you flex your knees, you're not stretching the calves, you're stretching the soleus. The calves are completely relaxed. So when you stretch your knees, now the calves get engaged a little bit, and then you're literally stretching the calves a little bit. So we keep going up from the toes to the arch of the feet, the back of the leg, the calf, the soleus. Extending your knees. Maybe the heels reach down. Maybe the knees are straight. Maybe you need to engage your quad, maybe not, to drop the heels down. The pelvis is going up. And from here, I'm gonna go down, gently resting your knees down on the mat. relaxing again, and maybe putting a little bit more pressure or a little bit more of stretching on that fascia plantaris on your toes and the sole of the feet. Going back again, down to a downward facing dog, maybe removing the arms a little bit more, maybe with the leg completely stretched, completely extended. We keep one leg on top of the other so we can put more pressure or put a little bit more effort on one leg and then go into the other one. Remember, first we were with the knee flex. Now with the leg completely extended. So we keep going up. The feeling of the stretch keeps going up through your leg. Now it goes to the back of the knee. And from here we're gonna flex. We're gonna bring the hands and the feet closer to each other. So now the feeling is more towards your hamstrings, towards the back of the thigh. Flexing the knees a little bit. Observe how the low back relaxes a little bit more, and how you can just gently hold your elbows with your hands, with the opposite hand. So it's easier to go a little bit lower with the knees flexed. Then when we extend the knees, we need to go up a little bit because it's pulling from the hamstrings a little bit more. The pelvis is tilting back and it's pulling from the low back, and that's why most of the people has this position, arching or rounding the low backs, which is not very healthy for your vertebrae, for the disc and the compression that it's doing on the flexion of the trunk. So every time you wanna go down here, and you feel like flexing your knees, flex your knees, relax here. You want to extend your knees, but it's too tough. And forget about reaching down there. It's like, how do you feel here and how do you feel up here? That's the most important thing. Just literally forget about reaching the ground. Just relaxing all the way down, maybe flexing one knee. So you feel the stretch on one side. Actually, I can even feel it up all the way up to the lat, because the lat is attached to the pelvis and it's pulling from here. Okay, and if you go to the other side as well, feeling the stretch from the hamstring and the glute, the low back on that side, and the lat going all the way up to the arms. Relaxing all the way down. We keep pulling, we start pulling from the toes, the arch of the foot, the back of the leg, calves and soleus, now the back of the knee, all the hamstrings. You have the biceps femoris and the semimembranoses and the semitendinosus. There are three muscles on the back of the thigh, and that's where you're pulling from. All of them attached to your ischiums, to the sit bones. And these the sit bones, the ones that are gonna ask you to either be like this if you're not flexible enough, or be like this if you are extra flexible. See, I'm sure we all can recognize these postures. We all can recognize people standing in these positions with the pelvis tilting back. That's what we call tilting back the pelvis. The pelvis goes forward, right? And the low back rounds a little bit and it flats. Otherwise, the pelvis tilts forward, the low back arches a little bit, getting a lower doses on the low back, and then your pelvis is ready to tilt back and forward easily. But sometimes it's a little bit too much of flexibility on the hamstring. Sometimes it's very weak and the low back goes very arch, and that's a little bit too much. That's what we call a hyperlordosis. Ballerinas and other professionals, a lot of yoga teachers as well, we like to be in these postures, right? But most of the people you'll find like this, especially guys, we're a little bit tied on the hamstrings. So when you're tied on the hamstrings, everything is pulling down, so the pelvis tilts back, and then you find these kind of people. No, neither better or worse. It's just different. It's just a different body pattern. It's just a different position. How do you change this position? Then flex the knees. Change the position of the pelvis. As soon as you flex the knees, you change the position of the pelvis. Now the low back is flat, and then you drop the weight of the body forward, and probably you won't get fatter back than down in here. Then you can work on one knee and the other. Relax the head, relax the neck, relax the shoulders. Okay, so it's working on the knees, it's working on the pelvis. So you're welcome to be here, extend your knees, flex and extend, and you're welcome to keep the knees extended, go a little farther up, and arch the low back and round the low back. Arch the low back and round the low back. We can do the same thing in Dandasana. We can do the same thing in these poses where if we place a bolster underneath or we place a blanket underneath, it's easier, remember, lifting up the pelvis. And then here, like probably most of people is here. If you have a blanket underneath, it will be much easier. Now, how are we moving forward from here? Okay, flex your knees a little bit. The pelvis is gonna relax. It's gonna be free already. The low back is gonna be relaxed. The belly is gonna be relaxed. There's no action on the core. There's no retraction on the core that is limiting the movement. And now is when we're allowed to go a little bit easier. See? Everything is much easier with the knees flexed because the attachment of the hamstrings goes to the sit bones, I insist. And it goes from behind the leg, from the tibialis. Relaxing the weight of the body forward and very gently lengthening the spine, holding the position. Look at my back, it's completely flat, it's straight. Now we're gonna keep it here and we're gonna go forward. And then suddenly I find out, oh, it is too much, I can't do that. So what happens? We don't change the position of the knees because we already flexed them, but we're gonna keep them straight. Now, there are two things that can happen. One is that the pelvis keeps tilting forward and then you're flexible enough and the body is gonna allow you to go forward. Or that the pelvis is gonna tilt back. It's gonna round the low back. There's no more pulling from the hamstrings. And now, you're gonna stretch from here to here. Good? What you're feeling on the back is the nerve being pulled. It's not your muscles being pulled, it's your nerve that is also tissue that you can pull from it, and you have a sensation when you pull from your nerve. But you're not pulling from the muscle, you're pulling from the nerve itself. Good? So when you're here, normally you round your back. You don't want to pull from here because your back is too round to force your body to flex forward and put even more strength and more pressure on there. You want to either flex your knees, flat your back, then pull forward. If you're flexible enough, go for it. Pull, back is flat, legs are straight, pelvis is tilting forward, use your arms. But if you're a beginner, you want to flex your knees, you want to keep the back flat and straight, pull from here, or simply extend your legs, keep the low back a little bit round, and then drop the weight of the body forward. Two different ways of approaching Paschimottanasana and stretching your hamstrings a little bit more to get into more difficult and more advanced poses. More things about the inner thighs and more things about the work on the hamstrings and the back of the leg. One of the things that really limitates a lot the hamstring flexibility to be able to do these things, or even to be able to do all these things. What is limiting? What is really limiting myself? What is not allowing my leg to go farther up and keep the back straight and the body straight and the leg completely straight? Why I'm not able to do this besides all this stiffness and all this retraction of the tissues coming from the back of the body? Well, very important thing is that we realize how much tension we have in our butts. This is a huge muscle. This is a very important muscle, and it's a very strong muscle as well. So when you have your butt tight, and that's something that I see a lot in the fitness world, we tend to do this all the time and tight the butt, and everyone wants to have the butt tight. And everyone wants to have the butt completely stiff. Instead of finding a neutral position and just have a little bit of tone there, but letting the back to be free, so your leg can move also more free. It can rotate more free. Good. So one thing is to work out on your glutes and do some squats and do some workout for the leg and glutes. And another thing is like, okay, if I have all this stiffness here, remember where the hamstrings were reaching to, the ischiums. Where do you think you have your glutes? Right on top. If your glutes are super tight, and then you can see these in football players, and you can see these in guys that go work out in the gym a lot. It's like they have the glutes so tight that they cannot even go lower than this. So you have to learn how to release the tension on the glutes, because all this tension is gonna go right all the way up. And what do you have here? This is your low back. Why is the people who walk like this like walking like this? Because they have so much tension on all these tissues. Think you're not made like a Lego. You're made like made of tissues connected to tissues. So if you have tension here, you're gonna have tension here. You're gonna have tension here as well. So we need to relax and stretch the glutes to be able to stretch and feel more freedom on the hamstrings, because the glutes can be more chill, can be more relaxed, even if they are strong. You have to find that connection between stiffness and relaxation. How do I stretch the glutes? Of course, this is already a stretch for the glutes. Easy, gentle one. One leg, the other leg, the hip is rotated out, is flexed, and is a little bit open. Then I drop the weight of the body forward. And I feel my glutes, and I feel the low back stretching already. Because remember, everything is attached to each other. Everything is a huge connection of tissues that is pulling. It's not just a line. A muscle is not a line saying it comes from here to there. No, it's a huge connection in different directions. Not only like this, but also like this. And like that, in a diagonal position. And it's completely like a network. All right? So it's stretching here, gently. Sometimes we also can get into a very comfortable and simple pigeon, or here. Okay, these are different ways of stretching your glutes. Easy ways. All the ways we have seen, or we see a lot for stretching the glutes. These ones. These ones. These ones. Anything that brings your thigh to your chest and to your belly, and your knee to your chest and your sternum. Anything that does this is going to stretch your gluteus major, which is the main hip extensor of your body. Okay, and every time you want to do these postures, you do a hip flexion of your body. See, hip flexion, hip flexion. Every time you hold your leg, hip flexion, hip flexion. So what is the glute doing? Actually the opposite. It's a hip extensor. It's good for your dancers when you're not holding the leg. Okay? It's good for all these things. But it's not good for the opposite, to bring the leg forward, to keep the legs here. Another way to stretch the glutes. Another way to stretch the glutes. Right? Good. So remember, when you pull from here, you're going to pull from the toe flexors, from the fascia plantaris, you're going to pull from the Achilles tendon, from the soleus, from the calves, from the hamstrings, going all the way up from the hamstrings, and then it's going to the glutes. Fascia lata, okay, IT band, and going up towards your low back. All right? So stretching the glutes will also stretch and release not only the low back, but the hamstrings. And it will allow you to go a little bit deeper into the pose. Nice. So now we have this in this plane. So we flex and extend a little bit easier. Something that it also helps a little bit is to bring a little bit of action. It's not only just about stretching. Sometimes a little bit of engagement. Now this is working. Now this is working. It also brings some tone to your muscles, so they get more blood, and then you can also pull from there a little bit easier. And they're more protected. You have more blood there. You have more nutrition. You have more temperature. So your tissues are going to be a little bit warmer, and then it's going to be safer to pull harder from them when you want to go deeper into the pose. So it's important you combine this warm-up, you combine this stretch asanas with a little bit of tone engagement, with a little bit of effort for those muscles, and then go back again and stretch and see how it feels. Okay? Different ways of stretching your glutes. Here, easier ones with a little twist. Simple. No forcing much, especially on the twist. Easy with the twists. All right? Good. So now we're going to go for the inner thighs. The inner thighs, those adductors are also called, that reach the pubis and different areas of the femur on that leg. You have different adductors with different sizes and different names because of the size and because of the length, right? And then you have the gracilis, which is another one that goes all the way underneath the knee. Okay, so why some people cannot even open here? Why some people cannot even stand in these positions? Why is it easy for them to stand on top of a pelvis? That's a very long class. That would be a very long explanation. And I don't want to bore you. I'm already talking a lot and not doing much, but I think I'm at least explaining a little bit how we can go work and be more aware of our asanas and get into them in a safer way. So very gently, you are welcome to, again, placing a bolster underneath your butt, opening the hips, gently pushing the knees out, or maybe just resting your hands behind you, okay? This will allow your core and your hip flexors to relax. And when you place your hands behind you, everything opens a little bit more. Everything opens a little bit more, all right? So you drop the weight of the body back, and then suddenly the hips open because you're doing the effort towards the back. If you drop the sit bones down and you have no hands, then the core has to be actually suddenly activated to support this position, and the psoas is also activated. Where is the psoas attached? To the inner thighs. What is the inner thigh? What is the psoas doing? It's pulling, and it actually psoas is also a hip closure. It closes your hips. It brings the hips together. I mean, you bring the knees in. This is because of this tension on this position. See it from the side. So that's why I'm asking you, lift it up, put it higher. So the low back will be flat. So there's no pulling from the psoas here. Okay? So then you can work either dropping one hand on one side, taking a little twist, then allowing the hips to be free, not to have any action there, and then you push with one arm, and you bring the knee lower. Because there's no muscles pulling up. Here, all the muscles are pulling up. You cannot open more because you will fall down if this is completely relaxed. But now, I drop the weight of the body on the back, knees open more, hip opens more. No action on the inner thighs, no action on the psoas, hips open. Twisting to one side, gently, twisting to the other side, gently. Now we have two hips open. It's completely different if we have two hips open than if we have one hip open and the other knee is flexed. Now you have a lot of stability here. And this leg is more free. This leg is able to flex and extend to abduct and adduct. And from here, you can also use your arms to go back and forward, to tilt back and forward, right? The hip is open. We can still be pushing with a little twist. And we can also place the position of your body like this. So what we're looking for is for the opening on this side to drop the weight of the body towards the other side. And feel the stretch not only in the inner thighs, but also on the hamstrings again. And now, we're lifting up the arm, so you pull from the low back. And when you pull from the low back, you're pulling from the glutes. And you're allowing the whole body to be more flexible and adaptable in this pose. Because normally, we will be thinking about reaching there. But the whole purpose here is to open from the hip, the pelvis, the rib cage. Now the low back is not closed and you're not flexing your trunk. You're actually extending your trunk. So the space between the rib cage and the pelvis opens easier and the lats are stretching. So keeping the sit bone down on the mat. You think about opening on the upper arm to drop the weight of the body all the way to the other side. Forget about reaching there. It's how do you feel in each pose. It's not about reaching here. It's about, okay, how do I feel here? What is my feeling here? How my hip feels here? How my low back feels here? How am I breathing here? What am I thinking about? It's like, where are you? This is not about doing the pose and then doing a picture for Instagram. That's cool. Do it later. But now in your practice, okay, now I feel something here. Recognize, what do you feel? What is it? Do you want to push it forward and do you just want to experience what is happening? You know what I mean? Take it easy with the asanas. Don't go to the final pose. Live each moment with a breath and be aware of what is happening inside of your body. And forget about the goal. The goal is that moment. And it's as good and as powerful as someone who is here and is displacing the posture underneath and is just here. That's the path of yoga. That's how you have to get better and better. You have to go and move forward into your practice and into your own introspection. And that's when your body will open and adapt and go farther and breathe and bring the awareness so you can just reach your leg. One day, easy. Next pose or next phase, we open the hips, right? Next pose, both hips are open. Wow, this is challenging. What is happening here? Why no one can go farther than here? Where is it everything pulling from that my body is just like useless? You feel like a little baby when you cannot move from the bed. It's like they want to cry. It's like, what do you want to do? You want to go forward. You want to feel the back is straight. You don't want to feel any tension here. You just want to feel like the flexibility going back and forward. What is happening here in your legs? What is happening here with your knees, your hamstrings, your pubis, your sit bones, and your pelvis? What is happening on the low back? Who is allowing me to be up there? If you have the hamstrings already tight, this is going to be pulling, and if it's pulling from both, your pelvis again is going to tilt and you're going to be here. This is what happens first. This is tight. But if, after doing all this stretch and glutes and inner thighs and hamstrings, then it's probably everything's going to be easier. Everything's going to be more adaptable. And we keep moving on. And then you want to open your hips. And then you have some adductors, and then you have all these little ones, and then you have longer ones, and then you have bigger ones. There's a bunch of muscles inside of there. So some people have it more tight for many reasons, maybe because they play football, maybe because they stay with the legs closed all day, maybe because they are shy and they're like always closing their hips, maybe because they rotate their knees in and they walk like this. It's like, why we have inner tension in this area, it's very wide, and there are many reasons for different people. So besides that, you find your own reason why you have tightness there. Why do you feel tightness there? What kind of tightness it is? What kind of stiffness it is? Where is it coming from? Is it a physical thing? Is it an emotional thing? Is it an awareness thing? Is it a fear thing? Okay? So start. Open your hips and feel free. Same sensation we had on the chest. So you can also have this sensation on your pubis. You can also have this sensation on your pelvic floor and on your legs and your hips. But it's going to depend a lot on your body structure, on your hips, on your pelvis, and how open your pelvis is. Okay? So some people, and especially guys, we do have our pelvis a little bit more closed, but the ladies, they do have the pelvis more open because you give birth. So the hip opens way more because the angle of the hips of the iliacs is different than the angle for guys. So that's why you girls are more flexible, besides many other reasons like relaxing or strength or tone. So we're out with the hips open. Remember, a way to keep the hips a little bit higher, the pelvis a little bit higher, flexing the knees, placing the hands in front of you, placing one hand behind you, placing the other hand behind you or in front of you. So you choose where you need the support. If you're lying down, yeah, you need to push forward. If you feel like you're falling forward and you have so much tension there, maybe you need to rest and relax a little bit and place the hands that your knees gently go down and there's no tension here, and just let your body adapt to the new position. Let your body just move on and move forward by breathing, by calming your breath, by calming your mind, but no forcing and not thinking about reaching with your nose on the ground. Just feeling each moment, every single posture, every single asana, and every single movement in the asana. And when I mean movement in the asana, because asanas are still, it means like there is a process for each asana. And you don't force the asana, you are the asana. And you breathe and feel the asana. I'm not thinking about moving forward, pushing forward. I'm thinking about how do I feel? Where do I feel it? And then I think, why do I have this stiffness here? And I let it go, and let go, and let go. And when you keep letting go and let it go, and then you keep practicing, and every day you do a little bit, one day you go with the chest, you grab your big toes, or you interlace your fingers, and you do fancy things like this to show up a little bit, because there's no limits. There's just certain limitations, and you have to be aware of them. But it's all about practicing and letting go, and taking your moments, taking it step by step. Okay? Different ways. A variation of Janu Sirsasana, like opening the hip, just letting one knee out, and the other leg goes straight. What is happening here, when I lift up my arm, I pull from the lat, and I feel the stretch, not only on the hamstring, but also on the lat, on the side of the arm that goes forward. This hip is opening, the lat is pulling from the pelvis, and the hip wants to go up, but I keep the hip open and I stay there. Here, sit bones down, pelvis is tilting forward, the hip is completely open, the knee is open and down, and then the torso falls forward with the back flat. And I feel the stretch there on the back of the knee. Be nice with the knee. Don't force the knee. A little bit flex, just slightly flex. Good. So we've been working on the back of the thighs, and we've been going all the way up to the glutes, even the low back. And we have to work a little bit on the front part of the limbs, of the lower limbs. What about the quads? And it's probably the same issue that it happens on the front. We're gonna pull from the toes all the way in front of your feet on the tibialis anterior, this muscle that lifts up your toes and flex your ankle. And sometimes it comes here when you're driving, or if you play piano, or if you play the drums. Okay, so feeling the opening of the ankle to feel the stretch of the tibialis anterior, and then being very nice to drop the weight of the body back. Feel the stretch. There's a compression on your knee, so be nice with the knee. Make sure there's no pain. Make sure there's no a compression that you won't feel comfortable with it. And then the only thing you do is just find out and breathe how you feel on your quads. And then you drop the weight of the body back as low as you feel okay, as you feel comfortable. This is also a feeling of stretching the quads, also a feeling of stretching and opening the hips. All the hip flexors on the front, you're just stretching and opening. And then if you're ready and your body allows you to, and you want to go lower, you can either place a bolster underneath your low back or your back, or something that supports you the way that, but if you're flexible enough to go down, just go down. Feel the stretch, feel the opening. And now, the opening and the stretch, not only coming just from the toes and the knees, but also coming from the pubis. And the pubis is where the abdomen is attached, and attached all the way up to the rib cage and the sternum. And then when you bring your arms up, lifting up the rib cage a little bit more, that's when you even feel it more from the whole torso. And then you can relax your arms behind. Maybe just bring the arms all the way back, using your nails as a reference. So now you have the whole body being stretched on the front part. You see? Nice. Before you go down, you come down here, you're also very welcome to stand in these other positions where there's no that much demanding for the knees and for the quads. You can gently drop the weight of the body on one side and then pull from the other arm to open the front of the body. But we will use these ones for later for the upper body stretch. Also, some of the core work comes from these positions. So a way also to combine these asanas we were doing, a way to stretch from the toes all the way to the back. You see a lot all these movements in class in Vinyasa, especially, how to stretch back and forward. So now you're stretching the front of the right hip, and then you're stretching the back of the left leg, right? So you can combine back and forward. Same thing, you can do it all the way up there, right? So you can find different ways of stretching the hips on the front and on the back, with the glutes and also psoas. To start ending with the lower limbs, we're going to talk a little bit about the hips rotators. And very little, because it's a very wide and complex subject. But here you have my hip rotated in, and on the other side I have my hip rotated out. Rotated in, rotated out. There's a lot of things happening inside of the hip. There's a lot of things happening on your iliacs, in general, on your pelvis, on your pubis. There's a lot of things happening on your pelvic floor. There's a lot of things happening on your femur. Okay, so there's a lot of things happening on the hip rotations. And think about something. In yoga, we're always like this, 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 always with the hips open, always with the hips especially rotated out. So barely we use these asanas with an internal hip rotation, or basically these ones. There's no much besides these positions where you have your hips rotated in, and we do have to compensate this a little bit to give more freedom to the hips, to the pelvis, to have more flexibility on your legs, hamstrings, inner thighs and adductors, and also on the glutes. Okay, so yes, I'm gonna do a little sequence to resume all this and put together all this speech that I just told you about the lower limbs, and the next day we will come with more asanas for the trunk. We want to work on the trunk and what is happening on the trunk, how to open the trunk from the front, from the back, from the sides, what's happening on the twists, how to prevent the injuries on the low back, how to work with the pelvis and the core at the same time, and how this affects the rest of the body. So just a little sequence to finish the class today, to finish this little, let's call it little workshop about the biomechanics of the lower limbs. I hope you enjoy. I hope you like it. If you like it and you want to have a little bit more of classes with this anatomical approach and this injury prevention concept, please let us know, and we will be very happy to keep teaching yoga from this other perspective of the practice. I'm not gonna talk to you after the little sequence. We're gonna do a little sequence. You can hold the asanas for as long as you want, depending on what is your purpose. Don't hold it for longer than 30 seconds. I would recommend, especially for this practice, and enjoy it. Namaste, and see you next time. Here goes the little sequence for the lower limbs.